Hello, my name is Łukasz Waligorski and welcome to Polish Pharma Insight, a program from which you will learn about the most important events in Polish pharmacy. And today on the program, from April onwards, Polish medicines will be cheaper in pharmacies. New code of ethics for pharmacists in Poland. Important changes for pharmaceutical technicians in Poland. A flood of judgments regarding franchise pharmacies. A secret agreement between the Polish government and a pharmacy chain. At the beginning of April, a new list of reimbursed in Poland drugs will come into force. For the first time, it will also include two lists of Polish medicines, which will be covered by an additional discount for patients. The first list will include medicines manufactured in Poland or those whose production uses an active ingredients manufactured in Poland. Such drugs will be 10% cheaper than before. The second list included drugs that met both conditions. Medicines manufactured in Poland using active ingredients manufactured in this country. In their case, the patient's payment will be lower by an additional 15%. It should be emphasized that these reductions will apply only to reimbursed drugs. The first list will include 329 drugs produced by 7 manufacturers. The second one includes 24 different drugs produced by 3 Polish companies. The aim of this solution is to increase the market share of medicines produced by the Polish pharmaceutical industry. It is also intended to be an incentive to develop domestic production of active substances and medicines. The new Code of Ethics for Pharmacists of the Republic of Poland has been in force since March 13th. It replaced the Code of Ethics for Apothecary of the Republic of Poland, in force since 2012. The new code will also apply to pharmacists working in places other than pharmacies, pharmacy points, or pharmaceutical wholesalers. The extension of the scope of the Code of Ethics to all pharmacists results from the evolution of the pharmacy profession over the last 10 years. The new code includes new provisions regarding the independence and freedom to practice the profession of pharmacist. They are intended to strengthen this independence, especially in the face of substantive and business pressures exerted on pharmacists by their employers. The Code of Ethics for Pharmacists also introduces very important changes in the area of pharmacists' advertising activities. According to its wording, pharmacists cannot advertise medicines, medical devices, dietary supplements, and foodstuffs for particular nutritional uses. Previously, the code only prohibited pharmacists from advertising themselves and their services and participating in advertising that was contrary to law or good practices. The entry into force of the Act on Certain Medical Professions, which will take place on March 26th, is inevitably approaching. From now on, only people who meet certain requirements will be able to perform the profession of, among others, pharmaceutical technician. And these requirements concern primarily the issue of having no criminal record. From March 26th, the profession of a pharmaceutical technician can only be performed by a person with full legal capacity. Such a person cannot be convicted of an intentional crime prosecuted by public indictment or an intentional fiscal crime. One must also enjoy full public rights. Due to these requirements, employers have the right to expect the employee to present an appropriate certificate of no criminal record from the National Criminal Register. You can obtain such a certificate online. It takes up to 10 days. They can also be obtained immediately at any information point of the National Criminal Register. The Provincial Administrative Court in Warsaw has recently issued several judgments regarding several pharmacies operating in the Gemini franchise, owned by Warburg Pincus LLC. This concerns a pharmacy in Legnica and 3 pharmacies in Radom. All these pharmacies were bought by companies of pharmacists a few years ago. However, the pharmaceutical inspectors refused to transfer the licenses to operate them to the new owners. Inspectors indicated that these companies had concluded franchise agreements and a number of other agreements that made pharmacists dependent on Gemini. In this way, the transfer of permits would mean a violation of anti-concentration regulations stating that a pharmacist, in a company or individually, may own a maximum of 4 pharmacies. Despite the opposition of provincial pharmaceutical inspectors, on appeal the chief pharmaceutical inspector agreed to transfer these permits. At the same time, he instructed how to change the above-mentioned contracts to ensure the independence of pharmacists. Ultimately, however, amending the contracts was of no use because the Provincial Administrative Court overturned GIF's decisions regarding the transfer of permits. This means that these pharmacies cannot operate. At the beginning of March, patients of a pharmacy in Legnica found out about this, as it was cut off from the system enabling e-prescriptions. Journalists of the Wirtualna Polska portal revealed a letter that in June 2023, Deputy Minister of Health Maciej Miłkowski sent to the management board of Gemini Polska and the director of the Warburg Pincus Fund managing this pharmacy chain. The letter shows that the representative of the ministry was happy to receive information about the completion of all proceedings pending before the chief pharmaceutical inspector regarding the transfer of the permit to operate a public pharmacy to which Gemini Polska franchisees are parties. According to journalists, the assistance that the Polish government provided to Gemini in this regard was related to the claims that Americans threatened Poland after the Pharmacy for Pharmacists regulation came into force in 2017. The regulations introduced at that time allow only pharmacists and their companies to open and take over pharmacies. This regulation limited Gemini's possibilities for further development, increasing the number of pharmacies in the network. Americans estimated their damage at several $billion. Therefore, the previous Polish government decided to enter into negotiations with the American investor. For helping to take over the pharmacies and including them in the Gemini franchise, Warburg Pincus was to withdraw from the dispute under the Treaty on Trade and Economic Relations between the Republic of Poland and the United States of America.